Yeah,
So good, so good. But anyway, welcome back to the Progress Lab. Today, finally, we have another guest. So if anyone was on the verge of stopping listening and unfollowing us, don't worry, you don't need to. We've got some actual talent in here today, thank God. Liam Hiney,
Yes.
welcome to the Progress Lab.
Thank you. Thanks
You
for having
are
me.
a psychotherapist.
Correct, that's correct.
So question number one for you is, what is that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I get asked that question a lot. Psychotherapy is like it's a collaborative process, like counseling or any type of therapy. But I would say what I specialize in is like character traits. So a person might come to me, let's say with what I call like a surface level issue, something that they're wanting to work with. It could be a relationship, an addiction, things like that. And we work on that. We kind of reduce symptoms, but then we look deeper as to how did we end up being in this place in the first place? Like what does your childhood say about how you act as an adult? And so we're really looking at like, character level change.
Interesting.
Interesting. Quite a long process.
And in terms of the actual definition of psychotherapy, how is it different to seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a life coach, or is there differentials there?
Yeah, there's some differences. So psychiatry, for example, is all about like medication and stuff like that. So there's that clear difference there. I'd say the difference between like a psychologist and a psychotherapist, I like to think about like a myo and an osteo. Like sometimes a psychotherapist will be a little bit more broader but go deeper. Like an osteo might do some chiropractic work, they might do some tissue work, stuff like that. And then a myotherapist might specifically do tissue work. That's kind of like how I like to compare it. Whereas like, so I can do some symptom reduction and stuff like that, but we're looking a lot deeper at like a person's character. Yeah.
Awesome. So who specifically is psychotherapy for? And is there a subgroup? Are you laughing at Theo because he's bashing things? Sorry, everyone.
We have a fourth guest.
Theo.
He's desperate for a turn in the spotlight. But maybe later, buddy.
Yeah.
And is there any people that you would say that your particular issue is not for me or not for psychotherapy?
Yeah, that's an interesting question too. I would say no. Me personally, in my private practice, I like to work with people with trauma.
Right.
So
okay.
it could be acute or it could be childhood trauma, sexual trauma, things like that. Something that's really ingrained in a person's being and causes what we call behavioral harm. So it's like something that's happened to that person, and they, for whatever reason, there's these patterns that have been created within that person that they really struggle to like overcome. That's what I'm really like passionate about working with. Yeah. Yeah.
And is there ever anything in your sessions where it's a red flag for you where you're like, potentially this is outside of my scope? And what is your sort of, I guess, process for knowing when this has reached the edge of what psychotherapy can do? Maybe there's something else for you.
Yeah, good. I'd say that comes down to like medication. So like, when we're really someone's looking at like, can you prescribe me with antidepressants? Can you help me in that area? That would be outside of my scope of practice. I would refer to like a GP or a psychiatrist, and we can really journey that together from that perspective. But when working with trauma is a really slow process. So like sometimes, especially in men, you'll get guys that come in and like, I got this in my life and just needs to smash this out, 10 sessions, like get it done.
Yeah.
But trauma without resources is a very doing trauma therapy can be really destabilizing for people. And so it has to be a very slow process where you first of all establish rapport, right? What's it like to sit with one another? Do you trust me? And then at that point we can start to like unpack some of these deeper details and things like that. But the red flag would be if someone comes in and like, I want to smash my trauma out. Like, let's take a moment. Let's get to know each other first.
I've got 3 sessions and we need to be done after
I've got my
this.
Medicare plan and can we get it done?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. How would someone, I guess, listening to this know that they could benefit from psychotherapy? Do they have to have trauma, or like could it just be they want to be like better?
I want to get better at something.
I think like I'll use my own example for this. So like I'm a therapist, obviously, and I've been married for 10 years. And me and my wife, Holly, we go to couples therapy. I think society says that therapy is a reactive thing when actually it can be a proactive thing, right? Like society says go to therapy when everything's broken or when you need it. But I'm really passionate about like, well, what would it look like to get to know yourself deeper so that you can have tools and resources when times do get challenging.
Yeah.
Instead of it being a reactive
That's
process.
so interesting.
Yeah.
On that, because I'm so curious about that. And I think it's getting a little bit more common and talked about and sort of accepted. Like you often hear people say like everyone should have a therapist. That's probably true in today's day and age. But like, you know, you said, well, let's just go if you don't necessarily have an issue that's at the forefront. But what would that session look like?
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe there's not a specific issue that you're wanting to kind of like solve at that moment, right? There might not be any troubles in your relationship, for example. But there's like great like wealth and fruit that comes from knowing yourself deeper, right? So like knowing like how did your childhood and your relationship with your parents affect your adult life?
Yes.
Just having an awareness of that can be super powerful. Or like knowing what like presses your buttons or knowing what your default triggers are. We all have these behaviors and patterns that we've learned throughout life and they've served us sometimes, but they don't always serve us. There's times where it's like, well, actually this triangle doesn't fit into this square box today. And so I think, those sessions, it's like doing some deeper exploration.
Yeah.
Like, what does it look like? Like, tell me about your life.
Interesting.
It's funny. I have a small story on that. In that, I remember going and seeing what was to be a mentor for my weightlifting coaching.
Yeah.
And his model was, let's say, it was 6 weeks or 6 stages, if you will. Stage number 1 was the self.
Yeah.
And the first consult I had with him ended up going for about 3 hours, and we ended up actually talking more about my childhood than any other aspect of. I was like, we're going to learn how to do percentages and whatever else.
Yeah.
And like by the end of, I think I worked with him for 2 years, but by the end of the 2 years, it was like, I know why I'm a coach. And it actually does come a lot from like how I was raised and certain things were instilled in me. Yeah. And, you know, and then that was a positive. There was also some negatives that we worked through. It's fascinating how like, I imagine in an example like that, it's like, like it's going to the gym proactively or going to an osteo proactively. I'm not sore, but you know, I am missing a bit of range. What if I increase this range a little bit? Yeah.
Or like even just going there with openness to like, you don't know if you've got limitations in your shoulders, right?
Yeah.
But the osteo can look at it and be like, hey, like,
did you know
this?
Yeah.
You could be functioning a lot better than what your baseline might be. You're so used to it that you don't actually know there's a better way to be functioning.
The mind and the body is really good at like creating these patterns, right? And creating ways to operate and still be highly functional in the world. But like, what if there was more? Like, what if there's more? Yeah.
Speaking of patterns, are you generally seeing any patterns within your like client group and people that you talk to and work with? Are you seeing any patterns with the way people keep showing up in their dysfunction? Is there things that you're like, wow, this is really prominent in today's society?
Yeah. So one of those actually is linked to the workshop that we'll talk about, but it's that I believe a lot of people operate in the world in what I call a logical mind. So if we were a spreadsheet, it would be like an XY formula. Like if this happens to me, then this is my response.
Yeah.
And it limits our capacity to have different experiences, right? So this guy cut me up on the road. I got to call him see you next Tuesday or whatever, right? It limits our experiences and our ability to have different experiences. And what I work with a lot of my clients, I'd say at least 90% of them, is facilitating what I call the observer mindset. So it's like, okay, if this experience happens to me or I have an experience, is it possible to observe what's happening before I choose my Y, B, Z, X process?
Yeah.
What that response should be.
Yeah.
I love that. But a lot of people will come in and they're like, oh, this happened, so therefore I have to act this way or I need to be this person.
They're not sort of taking the time to sit back and learn those triggers and notice and observe, like you said.
That's
interesting.
Right. Yeah.
So interesting. Are we a weak generation?
Oh, that's a big question.
We or the one after us?
No, I'm saying specifically us because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I'm noticing, and a lot of people are noticing, that I think we are the first generation to really, we as in, you know, I'm assuming we're
millennials.
We're all the same age, but
Is Liam younger than us?
millennials are like, it's kind of, I guess, common and encouraged and open these days to talk about my parents parented me in this sort of way. Yeah. This is where I might get this behavior. Yeah. And then on the flip side, you often hear and when I say hear, I mean like read in the Facebook comment section of something, you hear that sort of older
Which
sort
is
of boomer and
reality.
above generation, not all of them, but often they can say like, you guys are snowflakes, like just, get on with it. We were fine. Are we snowflakes?
That's an interesting question. Well, I don't know if we are, and I don't know if being a snowflake is necessarily, like not being a snowflake. I don't know if it helps that previous generation too, right? Like I think there's pros and cons to each way.
Everything has a
being.
cost.
Yeah, for sure.
And they paid their dues in a certain regard.
For sure, right? Like, so we're talking about numbing emotions and things like that and just getting on. So I think our generation is a lot more open and aware. But I do believe a little bit about what you said there is like, we're really quick to like label or find an excuse.
Yes.
Like, for example, ADHD. I'm really passionate about ADHD diagnosis, and I'd maybe have a little bit of a different take on it. But I believe that some people use ADHD as an excuse. Oh, I got ADHD, like that's why I'm lazy and that's why I'm so disorganized. Well, actually, no, maybe you've just got some really bad patterns in your life.
Yeah.
Because ADHD is a really, for some people, like it's a really important diagnosis, but there's a lot of things that had to happen to get to that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny,
absolutely.
the blame game, because like we've had this conversation before about once someone has labeled something, they feel like the job's done.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, they throw their hands up in the air. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's like when we had Jordan on, the discussion was essentially like, okay, well, that's step one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how do we?
What are you going to actually do to change the behavior?
Correct. Yeah. And with some of my clients, I'll talk about like, what's the narrative here? Like, I'll ask them like, okay, yeah, we've got this diagnosis or we've had this label. What's the narrative? Like, are you a victim of this?
Yeah.
Or like, are you an overcomer of this? Like, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
Some people actually do want to be the victim. Like, they want to be heard, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But
is that a natural stage, you think? Like, is there a stage where you should have that self-pity or whatever it is before you become the fighter? Or you don't think that has to be an option?
I don't know if it has
reckon
to
that's a
be an
bad
option.
pattern?
I don't think it's a bad pattern.
Pattern to be.
Yeah, I think it's one to be aware of.
Yeah,
like to be curious about. Like some people, it's important to be like, hey, I'm going to go and tell my mum and dad what I've explored and what I found out, and this is how their parenting affected me or whatever.
Yeah.
Some people are like, it is what it is. Like, I know that now. Let's move on.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear, like we were saying, if you recognize a pattern and you're like, oh, I see these destructive behaviors come out in me. This could have been from XYZ in my childhood where I learnt that XYZ. There's the kind of awareness. But then I guess the next step is like, but my parents may have been doing the best that they could with what they had. So maybe there's some forgiveness that needs to happen there.
For sure.
And then there can be some forward movement. Do you see that kind of cycle happen a lot?
Yeah. And then the other side of that coin is you also see people that really want to protect their parents. Like, my parents did the best they could. Like, we grew up in a poor family and all these things, right? Which is really valid. But then for those people, I would say, but your experiences are true. Like, we can't deny that these patterns are now present as a result of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just because you recognize them, it doesn't mean that you're like hating on your parents, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You just being aware that like if someone came into your gym and you'd programmed like 90% clean and jerks and they bulged a disc, they wouldn't necessarily come to you and be like, Chris, you made me bulge my disc.
I would.
Right?
I'd go to him and say that.
It's probably because I was only 70% programmed that day.
Damn, mic drop.
Yeah.
Burn. But yeah, like some people wouldn't necessarily do that. Some people would because they want to play a victim, right? They're like, oh, your program is dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Interesting. I saw you talk about burnout a fair bit, which I think that, who hasn't experienced some form of burnout, right? So my question is, why are we all so freaking burnt out?
Yeah, that's a big question. Generally speaking, I think the other side to the snowflake coin is like this hustle culture. I've talked about this on my own podcast, like this culture to be like, I need to be something and I need to be there quickly. And I've got to show the world that I'm successful. And
it happens on TikTok. So why can't it happen for me?
Exactly right. Yeah. Everyone's like PBing their lifts or everyone's like doing this. So like, I've got to be that person too. And I think that when we are in a place of comparison and looking at other people, that can quickly lead to burnout, right? Because we're not acting in accordance to like our true authentic selves. Like I'll tell you a little bit about my own journey. Like I've watched Holly like go through the CrossFit Games and stuff like that and been super inspired by the people that she's around. And over the last 2 years, my focus has been on business and trying to grow my business and, improve myself professionally, and to live in a place of comparison where I'm like, I still got to try and push to be like competitive with these guys and be able to train with these guys and lift as heavy as these guys. That wouldn't be acting in accordance to like my true values and what's important for me right now.
Yeah.
I'm just living out of like scarcity and fear.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to not be that guy that doesn't be able to.
Also, I imagine for a long time in your life, that was a huge part of it.
Yeah. It becomes a part of your identity.
Absolutely does.
Sometimes you got to just be like, it's okay to let that go.
Yeah. And I guess it goes back to that narrative thing. Like, what is the story that I'm telling that I'm still afraid to let go of, which might not be what needs to be told right now,
That's
right?
right, yeah. And so I think, to kind of answer your question in a bit more of a succinct way, I think burnout can come from insecurity.
Right.
Like, striving, like what are people thinking of me? Or like, how do I value other people? And I think it can lead to a lot of
On that, I've got an interesting one for you, and we've discussed this a bit, and I don't think we can really land on like good, bad, or wherever it is, but goal setting.
Oh, I'm glad you asked this. That was on my mind.
Goal setting.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, it's like, let's have goals, like work towards goals. Everyone's got to have goals. Certainly in my professional career, it was something that was a KPI of ours. So if you weren't setting goals, and honestly, like sometimes you'd sit down with your manager and you'd just make up anything just to have the conversation over. You're like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to try hard again tomorrow. I swear. But so where is the happy middle ground with which we can potentially set some goals, but we don't lose our enjoyment of the present moment and the process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So where's the middle ground between setting the goal and like almost like selling yourself to the goal?
Are you a big believer in goal setting? Do you feel like people should be goal setting?
I think I'm a big believer in vision setting.
Okay.
Slightly like change of phrase, but essentially I believe that there should be a vision for like where you want to be or like what do you want to achieve, and then you can break that down into smaller goals. But I believe that there should always be a vision.
Yeah,
I believe that there should always be, and that vision doesn't necessarily need to be super specific. For example, I want a
number.
This number, a comp, right? The vision is, and I talk about this with some of my like high performance athletes that I work with. It's like the vision is in accordance to my core values. So my vision is that with every platform I take, or with every competition, or with every business meeting, it's that I'm going to execute with courage. So that I'm going to execute with like fearlessness or whatever that might be. And that's the overarching kind of vision.
Yes.
And then there can be these smaller goals that do fit underneath that.
Yeah.
Actions that
what does that
align
person
with
look
the
like
vision.
to build up the courage?
Because sometimes, like, let's be honest, like especially in sport, some of our goals that we might have are really fickle, and they're determined on sometimes if we get injured or not as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
What's going on outside the gym? Or...
Yeah, when you put your identity in that one goal,
yes,
and you don't make it, then like that could be a real problem.
And that's the thing about goal setting, because everyone's heard of like the SMART acronym,
SMART,
specific, measurable.
Yeah,
that's the bit that sort of trips me up, because I'm like, we're just going into so much. Can I say this word? Specificity.
Yeah.
Specific, no, I can't say it. I can say it normally, just not when I'm around you.
Specificity, but we're sort of
specificity.
That it's dangerous, right? Because we're giving ourselves such a tightrope to walk on in terms of the path to that goal. It's like, where's the flexibility?
Yeah.
Where's the present moment? And then
also, do they understand what it takes to reach that goal? Like we see it quite regularly here. People will write down numbers, and let's say it's like go from 65 to a 75 kilo snatch. If we're talking even like a female, and it's like what got you to 70 is not what's going to get you to 75.
Yeah,
like you might have to become a completely different person. And we had a goals board that it was almost where goals go to die. Some people would definitely hit them, and they would set the ones that would set them kind of a bit shorter and easier would hit them. The ones that might set one that's like a 2-year goal, they didn't know it was a 2-year goal.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of ways where it's like, all right, we set the goal, but underneath it, you have to cover the goal, because when you walk in, you don't see it.
Yeah.
It becomes real demotivating.
Yeah.
And you've got to write 3 things underneath it that help you become that person.
Yeah.
And whether that's like, I train 3 times a week, I get my 10 hours of sleep, or, things that are within your, generally within your control.
Yeah.
But because that's something that we talk about a lot, is this idea of like, I feel like more often than not, goals become more demotivating than they become motivating.
Well, I feel the exact same way in business, and like 10 years of like running gyms and running teams and things like that. And like I said to you, like the amount of goal setting conversations that I walk away from and I tick the box, but I'm really like I just said that because it sounded good to my boss. You know, it's not really actually, like you said, it's not authentic because I'm not actually that invested in that because I know that's not how it works.
Yeah,
it might change. Sure. You know, I know it needs to be fluid for me to actually perform. So it turns into just, I call it the bullshit board. Like you put all this crap up on the board and it turns into the bullshit board.
It's pretty honest, isn't it? Like, I think as well, like my own example of how I can relate to this is I think about Holly and Holly's journey to like making the CrossFit Games, right? And you look at that goal. We'd set this goal in 2017 prior to coming to Australia. I writ above, we used to have this chalkboard wall in our bedroom, and above the top of our
that's dusty for a bedroom.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, it was a rental. It was weird.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
And I wrote above the bed like future CrossFit Games athlete, and I drew an arrow towards Holly. And the importance of that was that I always used to say to her, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. So take the pressure off. Like you're having a bad month of training, you got a knee injury, whatever, it's okay. Like relax. Because I think that, you know, a lot of people with insecurities, they question their goals and they hate failing.
Yeah.
They hate the idea of failure, right? And so it's like, well, actually, I never really wanted that goal anyway.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm not going to go to the gym anyway because really I didn't want that.
Yeah.
It's
like when injuries appear a month out from competition.
Yeah.
Like miraculous injuries. Like,
you get all these excuses.
Sure?
Yeah.
And there are surely those people that are too, and the CrossFit Games as an example, are too afraid to say the big thing.
That's right.
You know, so it's like too afraid to sort of commit to that really big goal because it's, you know, that imposter syndrome, isn't it? It's
that's right. Yeah. And so we would say like it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And let's take all of these small steps to form the identity of a CrossFit Games athlete, right? Like so that we've taken years and years to build up this identity rather than, you know, having this big goal and then feeling like a failure because we set this timeline that we wanted to, you know, just I don't think that that's healthy.
So interesting. So do you think then, like, is there a different way that works?
Can you run us through how you would set a vision?
How I would set a vision. Yeah, I would look at core values first and foremost.
How do we know what our core values are?
This is like the golden question, right? Everyone wants to know.
Like, again, I feel like if I was having a session with you and you asked me that, now I'm a people pleaser. So I would probably, if I'm being really honest, I would say what I think sounds good to you. To make you sort of smile and nod, like, and then I would give myself a pat on the back, like I did really well in therapy today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and hopefully a good therapist would be like, oh, I'm noticing that you're trying to please me.
I see right through you right now. That's actually my values.
I would want the gold star of therapy, right? Which is, you know, obviously not a great trait to have.
For sure, yeah.
But like, how do I know what, like, the authentic Alice, what are my like morals and
I think it takes a lot of exploration. I'll be completely honest with you. Like even I, at times, I question different people's ways of achieving how they find out what their core values are. Like I've tried it with different clients, different methods, and it's always a little bit different. But for me, I think that it's important to understand what is a core value. Core value is like, it's a character trait or it's a descriptive word of how I want to live my life, even in the midst of challenges, like when times are good and when times are bad. So yes, it might sound nice to say that my core value is integrity.
Yes.
But like, really, is it integrity? Like when push comes to shove and like you're backed into a corner, are you going to act with integrity or not?
And is it important to you?
Is it important to you? Yeah. And then I always ask the question, well, why? Recently, I sat with a client for 3 sessions. We went through this person's core values over the course of 3 sessions and we picked them apart. Like, why is that important to you? And if it is important to you, that's great. How does it influence your behavior? And so it's not just as easy as like ChatGPT, please provide me with 15 core values and like,
that one sounds nice.
That's tick. I'll take that one. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, if that's core value or you think it is, awesome. Why? And then tell me how that's going to influence your behavior in the good times and the bad times.
How do you lean on that?
It's an anchor, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, a big core value of mine is faith. Like I have a Christian faith and it's an anchor in the good times and the bad times. It's not just like when life's feeling good, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll pray to God a little bit. It's something that's throughout every season.
Yeah. And could you explore, and do you with your clients explore evidence? Because surely if I'm trying to find my core values, would I not have shown some evidence in my past challenging times? Like what was uncomfortable for me?
Yeah.
When have I been like really proud of the way that I've acted? Like things like that.
Yeah. We can look at past history for sure, or we can look at like testing the core value too. For example, you got a beautiful little boy here, right? So core value might have emerged to be family over the last few years, right? And so maybe there's not too much previous history of that, but like now it's like, okay, well, let's go and test that core value. Let's go and challenge it and see what happens in your world. Yeah,
interesting. And then what changes for people when they know what their core values are? Like you said, it's a bit of an anchor, but I guess how do you work with your clients to ensure that their behaviors actually align with that when the chips are down? Because like you said, it sounds really good to have this little nice little packaged up, like, oh, this is who I am.
Yeah.
But then how do you actually sort of, I guess,
flex that muscle
and learn how to behave more that in a way that aligns with that a little bit better?
Yeah. I mean, it takes time, I think, and it takes repetitive exposure to like the challenging times to really concretize, okay, this is a core value of mine. I mean, recently in the world of CrossFit, right, we've had the CrossFit Open. And so with some people, I've gone through core values and what does that look like regardless of the leaderboard, for example, right? These high performing athletes that want to go to different levels. Where regardless of the leaderboard, what does your core value look like? It's in those moments that we can really test, like, okay, like if that didn't go your way, are we able to stand on like what was important, which was the core value and not the leaderboard?
Yeah. You've been telling me this for 3 months.
Yeah.
I feel I'm not seeing it.
Let's test it. Let's put it to practice and let's see if it is. And if it's not, then either let's maybe look at what behavioral patterns might want to change because we do really want to act in accordance to this core value. Or let's question the core value and just reevaluate and be curious again.
Yeah.
I think, and obviously I can only speak for myself because I'm only in my own head, but I feel like it would be important for me to hear that it's okay to make mistakes.
100%, yeah.
Do you often sort of do people sort of return to a therapy session and then like, I didn't do it, like I had a big fight with my wife or whatever it was and I totally ditched the core value. I'm so ashamed. I feel absolutely horrible. Maybe this isn't a core value of mine and they're questioning the whole process. Do you often need to talk people out of like the hole like
I
that?
would say that's true therapy.
Right.
Like when someone can come and be so authentic with me and be like, hey, this is what happened. Like I didn't act in accordance to this value. In therapy, like everything is material, right? As a therapist, whatever comes up in the session, there's lots and lots of material from body language to what's been said to even what we call transference and counter-transference. So transference would be like a little bit what we talked about earlier, like me becoming so attuned to that person that I'm aware if this person's trying to please me, right? And then even being like, oh, I'm noticing that I think you're trying to please me here. And I'm just questioning, I'm wondering what that's about. Like, are you feeling insecure around me? Or like, is something happening for you? Yeah. And also counter-transference is like, if I ever would do that to you as a therapist too, right? Like being aware of my own mind.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And so true therapy, I believe, is that person that can come in and be like, hey, you know what? Completely stuffed up. Didn't work for me. Like, I'm wondering if we can explore together instead of like trying to please the therapist or
I want to talk about authenticity because I just love everything about this topic.
Yeah.
But again, I'm going to be like super real. Authenticity, I would say, is a big value of mine, professionally and personally. However, I can be really fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Truly.
It could be quite authentic.
So it's like, yes, I want to be authentic, but also like I don't want to be fucking annoying. So like, where like what is a better way to be? Like sometimes I truly feel like
therapy here. Get it.
Like, no, not to turn this into my own therapy session, but like if you
a lot of people
feel like something is generally like a trait of yours and who you are, but that you might like walk away from social situations and kind of, I guess, be reflecting back and think, I was a bit too much there. That was a little bit off, whatever it was. But it was just you. Like, is there a balance somewhere there, or would you encourage people just to, you know what, honey, fly your flag? Like, what would you say?
Oh man, I think it's really subjective. Like, it depends on the culture and the setting in which you're in, right? If you're in a social kind of setting, then I would encourage people to be as authentic as possible. Especially if it's a social setting, maybe different in a corporate setting where there's like values to be upheld and stuff like that. But I would then question, like, what was that little like ick that you had at the end? Like, how come you felt a little bit uncomfortable? Like, let's talk about that. Like, are you feeling pressure from other people to be a certain way in society, or is it okay to be yourself, or are you actually being yourself, or are you playing up to be liked by people? Like, all of these kinds of deeper explorations, stuff like that.
Yeah. Super interesting. And I guess you need someone to. It's all about just putting a big mirror up, isn't it?
Curiosity, like it's the biggest thing that I'd love to foster in people, is like just become super curious about why you act the way you act. Like, as a therapist, I'm so curious about human behavior.
Yeah.
Like, just so curious. And I would encourage everyone else to become more curious about like...
Have you seen Ted Lasso?
No, I haven't. I've been told a lot.
Oh my God,
I've been told a lot to watch this.
So there's I won't give the scene away, but essentially the moral of the scene is be curious.
Yeah.
And all the person had to do was ask a simple question, and they wouldn't have got themselves. And this is the bad guy. He's educating the bad guy at this stage.
Right.
And it's a 5-minute build of like, and you go back to the car example, the road rage.
Yeah.
Like, but what if they were in a rush? What if they were having a bad day?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of that. And just this one little line, it's just like, it's like a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
But the word curious is such a fascinating word.
Yeah.
It's very non-judgmental,
internal.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is very non-judgmental, and again, external and internal. Like, maybe more so internal. Like, be so curious about yourself. Why do I do the things that I do, and how did I end up doing these things? Especially when we talk about relationships, right? Like, a lot of people are always like, man, my partner's not doing this and it really pees me off, or like, this is like, but like, how are you showing up in the relationship? Or like, why is that annoying you? And like, let's look at all those things too. Not to say
what
that's
is it
not
in
wrong.
me that's prickling me? Like, what need isn't being met, or like, whatever
that's
it might
right.
be.
Yeah, something
interesting.
maybe a bit more there.
How do you guys go when you're in couples therapy and you're a therapist? Is it just like buzzwords everywhere flying around? And
been a journey, I must admit. Like, at first I didn't tell the therapist for like the first few sessions, because I didn't want. We have a female therapist, and I didn't want her to like create again that counter transference and be like, oh, he's a therapist, I need to be a certain way.
Yeah,
and like,
use bigger words, or
so
well, you get when I say this, don't you? Like,
that's right. And so for the first few sessions, she knew nothing about like that I was a therapist. She just thought that like, oh yeah, he's got a gym in Port Melbourne and stuff like that. And then I slowly started to reveal it, because then at that point I'd been myself in the sessions. Like, you know, yes, I'm a therapist, but really who you've seen for the last few sessions is me. Right?
Guys, can we just pause one second? I just might move Theo onto your lap, if that's okay.
That's fine, yeah.
He's grabbing this cord and like yanking the whole thing. Chris,
I
edit this
was
out.
getting a bit concerned.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, is he going to like pull it out?
I didn't want you to think I wasn't listening.
No, it's fine. I saw him having a little tug.
Buddy, go and sit with Uncle Chris.
Let's go.
Awesome. This is
welcome to the show, Theo.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Had to do a little.
Welcome, buddy. Happy to be here.
A little baby shuffle there. Welcome, Theo. So, has that relationship of, you know, your therapist with you guys kind of progressed into something super honest, and now you've kind of found your groove in the dynamic? Yeah,
it's quite open. It's quite honest. Couples therapy is really hard. I do couples therapy too, and it's really hard for therapists, actually. Like, you have to be mirroring and reflecting, making sure you're not taking sides. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into couples therapy. And so, like, I think even more so with having a therapist as a client, you'd be like, I want to make sure I'm not just like siding with them or saying things that they would understand that Holly wouldn't understand, for example.
Holly feels
like,
left out. Or...
that's really, it's just a really complex dynamic to be in.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about self-sabotage, which I know you talk about a bit, because it's a very interesting thing, isn't it? Do you see a lot of people self-sabotaging?
Yeah, it's common.
Why?
I'd say it's common. Ultimately, I think with certain people, it's like maybe a little bit of like, it's that too good to be true, or like, I don't believe that I'm worthy of this position that I'm in, or like, maybe I am. Like, for example, with everybody, we have what's called an attachment style. I'm not sure if you guys have come across attachment styles, but essentially they're like ways in which we will operate within the world based on childhood. There's like these various styles, and it's based on the relationship that you had with your primary caregiver. Some of them are like avoidant, secure, disorganized. To go back to what we were talking about with self-sabotage, something might be going good in a person's life, but they have this attachment style of like avoidant. for example, in a relationship, like, oh, this relationship's awesome. It's different. This person really cares for my needs and stuff like that. But my default attachment style is to avoid contact and closeness. And so therefore self-sabotage might look like, as this person gets close, I'm going to distance myself because that's all I know in the world. That's what I experienced from my parents. That's like, and so it's very common, but I would be very slow to like blame people for self-sabotage. Like there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We'll go back to self-sabotage in a second, but on that attachment style thing, because it's so interesting, do you think it's useful for example, couples in relationships to know each other's attachment styles and talk about them?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Just because then you can empathize with the other person. You can understand their worldview a little bit more. Like, for example, if you have an avoidant attachment style, which is that when someone seeks closeness, you seek to push away. That might look like you're doing the dishes and your partner wants to come and give you a kiss on the cheek while you're doing the dishes, and you're like, oh, like that partner who went to give you a kiss has just experienced rejection, right? But for you, you're just doing what you've always done. Like it was never normal for you to get close with like people or to feel that affection. Having an understanding of that is like, that can be life-changing. Yeah, like it can literally save marriages.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many attachment styles are there?
So there is predominantly 3, potentially 4 that they say, but yeah, there's secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized.
Is secure the best one?
Secure is, yeah.
What's the definition of secure?
A secure attachment style would be like, there's actually a video you can watch on YouTube where they've done like controlled experiments. But like a secure attachment style would be a child that at like a toddler age will maybe go and explore the world, like in a playground, for example, but they'll look back to the parent as a secure base. So mum and dad are like encouraging, or the primary caregiver is encouraging, and they know that the primary caregiver is safety, but they feel safe enough to explore.
That's cool.
That would what I would suggest is a secure attachment style. There is like anxious attachment styles, which would be like, let's say mum and dad have found it hard in parenting, and the child learns, this is all pre-verbal. The brain is such an amazing thing.
This makes me so terrified as a parent. I'm like,
well,
oh my God, don't
I've got
screw
some
them up.
reassurance for you in a second. That's okay. But like that, so the child is like, I'm not sure which version of the primary caregiver I'm going to get today. Like, is mum, dad, or primary caregiver going to shout at me, or are they going to be annoyed at me? Are they going to love me? And it's all like always a little bit like confusing. Disorganized is not, I'm not going to say it's very rare, but to have a disorganized attachment style, we're looking at a child that's been exposed to deep, deep trauma, like where there is no safety, right? The primary caregiver is not safe whatsoever. That would cause a disorganized attachment style. But parenting, they suggest that like 60% of the time, you only need to be a good parent 60% of the time for your child to be.
Every parent,
I got 60% of me
collectively.
That's what they say.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then is it possible to change our attachment style?
Yeah, you can have what's called an earned secure attachment style.
Okay, cool.
There's various different forms of therapy. Like there's something called IPP, which is the Ideal Parent Protocol, whereby we tap into like the imagination system and we can readjust certain memories and stuff like that. And you can have an earned secure attachment style.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So interesting. Back to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So is step 1, if somebody is displaying some behaviors that you believe or they believe are self-sabotaging, is step 1 to find out why or to recognize it?
Step 1 would be to be curious about the experience, and then to do what I call consciousness raising. So then we would be looking at like, hey, I'm wondering if you're noticing this pattern that's happening. And then they're like, oh yeah, no, I've never really thought about that before. Then we've got raised consciousness to it, and then we can start to do some work. But at the start would be to just be curious. I'll just continue to be curious before. As a therapist, we really like conscious of labeling people. Like, hey, I'm noticing that you're self-sabotaging. No, it's like being a little bit more gentle, a little bit more curious, and then being like, oh, I'm wondering, we've been chatting for a few weeks now. I'm wondering if you're noticing that like
these behaviors,
this is happening for you. Yeah. Oh, no, I actually never thought about that. Okay. Like, well, I've noticed that. What's it like for me to notice that in you, and then go from there?
Yeah. That's really interesting. And so let's say in an example that someone has recognized in themselves that they keep repeating this one specific thing that, let's say it's something really tangible like drinking.
Yep.
Let's say whenever they get stressed, they crack open a bottle of wine or whatever it is, and then they realize that they're, it's not aligning with their core values. They're grumpy in the morning. They're sleeping like shit. They're, short with their children or like they're not performing at work or like whatever it might be. What are the actions to actually change it?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's take something like drinking. This is where like psychotherapy really comes into its essence. It's looking at like, well, drinking in that scenario is acting as a natural painkiller, and ultimately it's an avoidance tool, right? Like we're drinking because we're stressed and we don't want to feel stressed and we want to avoid that and we want to chill out. What is it about like what's going on in your world that feels like you can't hold it? It's so stressful that it's too big for you to hold. Like, let's take a look at that. Let's start to look at the reasons why we cracked open the bottle of wine in the first place. Some people, it can be really it can be a positive thing, right? It's like a down regulatory thing and it's okay and it's
celebratory.
It's celebratory or whatever it might be. But for other people, it's a painkiller. Like it's like I want to numb what's happening for me. Their question would then be, okay, well, what is happening for you and why are you incapable of holding that experience? Why are you symbolically wanting to avoid the experience? Or so looking at that a little bit deeper.
Interesting.
Take a bit of time.
Because I can imagine there would be certainly people in situations where they've been repeating this pattern for years and they're so sick of themselves, but they're like coming to you saying, I just can't seem to not do X.
Yeah. And again, it's just looking at like being curious about, okay, well, what is that serving in your life? What is it soothing? What is it covering up? Like, what is its purpose in your world? Like, ultimately, I believe that there would be something that person is needing to avoid. Or they would just really have like poor down regulatory practices. Like
it's a habit almost versus
a habit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like the word soothe because that's a lot of the time what it feels like, isn't it? When we do behaviors that we know are destructive. And if you really examine it, I guess we're just trying to soothe like a little kid.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
This guy rocking back and forth, he's just trying to soothe himself.
Absolutely.
In trauma therapy specifically, do people always need to talk about the incident? Let's say there was an incident. Do they always need to go deep, go back there in their minds in order to move through something?
No, not necessarily. Because some people that's too overwhelming. That's too much. Trauma therapy is a really slow process whereby the first kind of like pillar and foundation has to be trust and rapport. That's why, like, if a guy or a female comes into my session and they're like, oh, I've experienced this and I just want to smash this out. Like, I'm a soldier and I experienced this at war and like, let's just chat about it. It's like, hold on a minute. Let's talk about like, we need to build rapport. We need to build safety and we need to build resources. And then if we feel it's applicable, we'll go into the interiority of the experience. But for some people, it's not necessarily about the interiority. Trauma is essentially like, to experience true trauma, another thing that I'm passionate about is we over-traumatize things. Like, oh, that was so traumatic for me. Really, that work email wasn't traumatic. Like, relax. It was really uncomfortable, but it wasn't traumatic.
Yes.
Trauma is like where the body is locked in time and space. Like, my nervous system is so activated that I physically, no matter what I do, cannot move on from this experience. And it can lead to pain in the body. I don't know if you guys or anyone that's listening has read The Body Keeps the Score. It's a really good book about trauma.
Bookshop over there.
Is it? Yeah. It's awesome. It's a good book. And at university, I remember a case that we looked at, which was about a gentleman that got run over when he was walking across like a zebra crossing, and he got run over, and he had like chronic neck pain on the right side of his body. And doctors, scans, all this stuff, like this neck pain wouldn't go away. And like they was just like, it's probably down to the impact and stuff like that. Actually, through this case, what we found was that the person's inability to physically look right just before that incident happened to them was like the trauma was like locked in their body. Like that was the chronic pain that they were feeling. And so like through this whole pillared model of trauma therapy, for that person, it was important to go through like memory recall and to kind of like try and re-narrativize the memory and relive the memory with a different outcome that helped his pain. So for some people, to answer your question, it is important, but for some people it's not.
Yeah. So it's just case by case basis. Yeah.
And based on resources, like is that person resourced enough to hold this experience again?
Do you ever have any clients that are like over pathologizing their whole existence?
100%.
Like, I want to be better at this. I want to be better at this. And you're just like, you're fine. Calm down.
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, you wouldn't say it like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, I think sometimes there was something that a lecturer said to me at university once, which was like, once you take a bite from the apple, it's hard not to devour the whole piece. And what he meant by that is like sometimes once you go into this journey of like self-exploration and therapy, like you can get so caught up in it that you're like, oh, now I'm going to analyze this side of my life and this side and this side and this side. Sometimes it's important to recognize if that's happening in your clients and just kind of like maybe slow the process down or bring it to their awareness. Like what's, again, curious. I'm curious. Like you feel like you want to pathologize all of these areas of your life. Like why? Like why is that important to you?
Yeah.
Not with any judgmental kind of like.
Do you think that's linked to hustle culture? Like we got to dot the I's and cross the T's and I just need to be the best version of myself. Like you hear that phrase so much.
Potentially, yeah. Ultimately, like maybe linked to an insecurity, potentially like I need to be a certain way or
because I'm just thinking at what point can we just chill and just be like enough? And just be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's an interesting.
To slightly change tacks a little bit, I would like to quickly talk about the seminar you've got coming up here.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'd love you to talk about it in a more general way because I imagine you've got a lot planned for gyms. And then after that, I think we ask the 2 questions and roughly wrap up, unless you've got anything specific you want to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I suppose like you've already done one at CrossFit Churnside. I imagine you've done one at South Wharf.
I haven't done it to the members, but I've done one to a select group of people.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a bit about what you have planned? And obviously, like, I'm going to take this as a snippet separate to the podcast for our members. And then obviously, if you want to use it for your...
Yeah, for sure. So the workshop is called Mindful Action. And there's an emphasis on the ACT of the action phase because the underpinning like therapeutic model that I use in the workshop is what's called acceptance and commitment therapy. And the goal of the workshop is to create what I call psychological flexibility. So it is to be able to have a range of experiences that happen to us in the world, which we cannot control, but to have the flexibility to choose how we want to respond to those situations. I mentioned earlier, like sometimes we can go around the world in this logical frame of mind. Like if this happens to me, then this is my response.
Good or bad?
Yeah, good or bad, right? And it's like looking at like, well, what would it be like to be curious about that and to see if there is alternate responses. And ultimately what we do throughout the 90-minute workshop is we narrow down through various pieces of like theory to looking at our core values. And then ultimately we finish with like for those that want to participate, a mindfulness exercise whereby we look at like a painful situation that happened to us and our response to that. And I guide people through a mindfulness meditation whereby we look at that experience in correlation to our core values. And we objectify it. And I ask the consciousness to give us an object, which is symbolic to that experience. And we ultimately look at like, well, does this response sit on a shelf next to our core values or does it not? And so it's just looking at that, like again, raising consciousness to that. So yeah, it's really like practical. There's some like parts where we all get out of chairs and we'll get into small groups and stuff like that. But it's a lot of education around that psychological flexibility. Yeah.
I love that. I really like the word flexibility because it's something that my partner introduced to me many years ago in like a management mastermind or whatever she did. And it's something that I actually find myself using with our kids quite regularly, trying to teach them flexibility in certain, my sister or my brother wants like, my son just wants to smash everything. Just wants to smash everything. And teaching the girls that like, that's, like obviously we don't want it to happen all the time. So we'll teach you resilience and how to stop him. But like sometimes you got to lean into it a little bit. He's your little brother. He's only going to be this little for so long.
That's right.
So I really like the word flexibility.
I absolutely must ask about guilt versus shame.
Oh,
this is like so interesting to me. So I saw you talk about the differences between guilt and shame and how, correct me if I'm wrong, and guilt can be used as a positive, whereas shame is almost always destructive. And it got me thinking a little bit, and I'm like, I think shame has got to be the most painful emotion, in my opinion, that there is.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about those differences and why is it that shame is so freaking painful and destructive?
Yeah.
Sorry for opening a huge
No,
can of
no,
worms.
it's fine. I think that your reflection is spot on. Shame is, I believe, the hardest emotion for a human being to hold.
Yes.
Yeah, because it really questions our identity, our sense of self. Like, whereas guilt, on the other hand, is a little bit more like, it's a bit more intrinsic, right? It's like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. You know, if like maybe it's a little warning sign that maybe we didn't act in accordance to our core values. Like, I'm feeling a bit guilty about the way I responded to that person, or like I got angry with my partner or whatever. That in itself is just a signal. It's like, okay, awesome. What are we going to do with that? Let's be curious. But
It's like I wandered off the path a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, can I wander back? Sort of.
Yeah, but
An opportunity to flex your value system again. Like,
Yeah, that's
and then
right,
Use that as
yeah.
a potential for growth.
Yeah. So it's a guide, whereas shame is like it locks us in. Like not similar to trauma, but like similar characteristics, right? Like it's very limiting. It's very much like, oh, I feel deep shame in the sense that this is now who I am. Like it's questioning my identity and my sense of self. Whereas guilt, it's like, I know I'm not that person. Like I feel guilty that I did that. Whereas shame is like, yeah, this is who I am. I'm dirty, I'm unclean, or I'm like bad, or I'm evil, whatever it might be.
Yes. It's attached to like you're questioning yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe the guilt's attached to the behavior. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, like, let's take, for example, a relationship where somebody like cheated on their partner, right?
Not you.
I can hold him.
Sure.
Yeah. Come on, buddy.
And then
Come on, buddy.
I'll take that from the top.
Yeah, take that
Yeah.
from the top.
Yeah, let's take like an example of like where like someone cheated on their partner, for example. Shame would say like, once a cheater, always a cheater. Like in your future relationships, you can't trust yourself. Like that's who you are now. That's your sense of
I'm a
identity.
piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am unworthy of love, whatever it might be. Guilt, on the other hand, is like, bro, you did a really bad thing. Like, but let's work that out. Why did that happen? And let's try and move on from that and not let it happen again. Let's look at our core values, and that guilt, let's use that to like as our motivation to not be. Whereas shame, there's no like inquiry, there's no curiosity. It's like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And is that why, I mean, I've read a lot of parenting books and there seems to be a big sort of movement towards being really mindful of not shaming our children when they've done something quote unquote wrong.
Yeah.
With like toilet training and all the normal things about being a kid.
Yeah.
And because their brains aren't developed or whatever. It seems to be that the advice now is just like be really mindful not to shame them.
Yeah.
Is that because we can develop again that wreckage of our self-esteem from shame?
Yeah, I think so for sure. Like, yeah, to be shamed by your parents would be a really like hard, thing to experience, or like it can concretize a narrative of that young person's mind, right? Like that I'm unworthy of love, or like I am, I'm a bad person, or
Can that contribute to an attachment style?
it can definitely affect the attachment style, at a certain level, or it can do what we call conditions of worth. It's like a condition of worth would be like, I'm only lovable when like these conditions are met, right? And so therefore what that looks like as an adult is like being a people pleaser, for example. Like it's like, oh, well, I'm only lovable when I'm like making people laugh, for example. Well, like that's a condition that was placed upon you that you weren't allowed to cry. Big boys don't cry kind of thing. Like these are conditions that we place on our children that ultimately can affect their adult life. Yeah.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
And fascinating.
60%. Like that.
Yeah, 60%. Awesome. This has been so interesting, but we'd love to wrap up with 2 questions, which, as we mentioned, we're going to now be asking every guest these questions. Number 1, what is the best advice that you've ever received or heard? And number 2, what is the shittest advice that you've ever received or heard?
Yeah, I was thinking about these. These are hard, in-depth questions, right?
Yeah. They're loaded.
They are really
Yeah.
loaded. I was like, man, what am I going to say? I'll start with the bad piece of advice to start with.
Okay.
I think it's advice that maybe I've told myself at times and maybe other people have told me, but it is that like we need to go far fast. Like I think that is a bad piece of advice, that like you have a set amount of time and you need to go far, and you need to work your ass off. Like, don't get me wrong, I think work ethic is really important, but I think that we put pressure on ourselves that we need to go fast, and often that can lead to like burning relationships and burning people around you. Which leads me to like the best piece of advice is that like the biggest blessing or the biggest gift you can receive is like on two legs. It's like the people that come into your life. Then you never know how a conversation can change your life. Like not only as a therapist, but like networking opportunities in business or stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think the best piece of advice that I ever received from someone in business was that like always be curious about people's experiences and life, and always be willing to talk to them about like what's going on for them and like what can they get at, you know, not necessarily what you can get out of a situation, but like what have they learned in life and stuff like that.
Yeah. I just love the underlying theme of curiosity. It just seems so
It's the name of the episode,
non-judgmental, kind of gentle, but also like explorative. Like I think that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. If we can be more curious as humans, I think we can go a long way.
Absolutely. Liam, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. That was awesome.
If anybody that's listening would like to get in touch with you, potentially about therapy or what you do and how you help people, what's the best way to reach you?
So Instagram or my website. The Connection Concept is the name of my therapy business, my private practice. And so, there's like a 20-minute free consult that people can claim if they're interested in knowing about therapy, or they can DM me on Instagram. I try and put out like educational videos, but I've been a bit slack. I'm not going to lie. Life happens, but
You should get curious about that.
Yeah, I should. I need to get curious about that. That or the workshop that we're going to host in May. Like, come and have a chat to me. I'd love to chat to people. And
definitely. And Chris, how would people go about wanting to book in a spot if they want to attend the workshop in May?
To BC. I will. Whether I do it as like a Calendly link or I'll figure something out over the course of next week. The step one was get this done and dusted. We've got promotional material and posters, but it's so 2D. And now that we've got this, I think putting a face to the name. And then even like what is the session, which I think is really cool. I like the fact that it's interactive. We've had someone come in and talk before about mindset, and Bruce was fantastic. I think this will just be just a little bit of a deeper layer. And I reckon there'll be a little bit of fear initially too with some of the stuff we've talked about.
Naturally,
so I essentially have 4 weeks to convince people to be curious enough to come along.
Yeah, naturally, And people can attend at their own capacity, right? Like,
if they want to sit out, they sit out.
Yeah, like it's always very like, we're asking permission if people want to engage, but if they don't want to engage in the exercises, that's okay. They can still listen and take knowledge from it.
100%.
Yeah.
And look, I think there's anybody that is in my gym and external to my gym or in our community in some capacity will get something out of it in some way.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for the opportunity.
No, man,
this is
my
going to
pleasure.
be cool. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.